This review has been made possible by Toyota of Naperville. As you know, Toyota has tons of brand new Toyotas available for purchase. But did you know that they also have a remarkable selection of used cars? Head on over to toyotaofnaperville.com and look through hundreds of used cars for sale right now. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2012 Chevy Volt. Up front is a 1.4 liter gasoline engine as well as an electric drive system, and of course down below is a 1-speed automatic transmission. This video is sponsored by CarMarshal.com. If you'd like to support the channel, click the link down in the description below. CarMarshal.com advertises for over 100,000 vehicles across the US. Now, let's get back to that hybrid drive system. This is technically an electric car with a gasoline range extender. And so what that means is that this car can drive for 35 miles completely on electric power. And so that's totally enough to get to work, get to school, anything like that. You're going to be driving this like an electric car. This really has to be treated as an electric car because at the end of the day, what's actually setting the power to the wheels is the electric motors. However, there is a gasoline engine on board, and that is for when you've reached your 35 miles or you're getting close, the gasoline engine will kick on and that will generate more electricity for the car and actually charge your battery. So when you're at home at night, you plug this car in. This is a plug-in vehicle, and it'll charge you up to the 35 miles that the car can do. Then when you're out and about the next day and you've hit that 35 miles, the range extender kicks in, starts charging your battery. With all that together, you can go about 200 miles, which is like any other car. And the nice thing about it is if you can't recharge, you're going on a real long road trip. You can just keep filling up with gas and it'll just keep recharging the battery on its own. You will never get stuck or stranded because of lack of charge in this vehicle. And I think that's really nice. And we'll talk more towards the end, but I think this was really a really powerful liaison to modern electric cars. All right, so I am going to do the acceleration test on the back straightaway. It's not what I normally do, but there's so many geese on the front straightaway. They're not currently in the road, but I don't want one to start walking out while I'm doing a little pull. So we are in sport mode. We will talk about the modes in a little bit when we talk about the center console, but hopefully it's like other electric cars, and normally the instant torque kind of gets you. So 1-speed auto. No, it doesn't toss me back in my seat. It doesn't make me want to regurgitate my lunch. That's probably the least torquey electric car that I've ever driven. However, it's still decently quick. You're not going to feel sluggish like in traffic or anything. And honestly, I think just so many other electric cars have exceeded my expectations that it's perfectly normal. So don't take that acceleration pull as, oh, he doesn't think it's fast. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's still good. It's still a good acceleration. But like I said, down below is a 1-speed automatic transmission. This is pretty standard for electric cars. Electric cars don't really have normal automatic transmissions. They're not a 6-speed, they're not a 7-speed, they're usually just 1. And so it's a little odd to get used to because you don't really feel it shift. And right when you're back on the gas, you're right where you started. I guess not the gas, the pedal. Back when you're on the accelerator, you're right back where you started. There's no shift, and if you floor it at different speeds, you're not going to feel a different sensation like you do with a car because you're in a different gear. But I like it. It's pleasant. It's not too overbearing. I don't feel any jerkiness or anything like that, and I like that a lot. Last but not least, the Volt is front-wheel drive. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, of course, because this is an electric car, they have to give us a weird gauge cluster. Now, I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm also not hating on it. I think it's really interesting, and I think it take a lot of getting used to. But let's just point out some cool stuff. So right in the middle, I do have my speed and actual digits. Then I have my trip A, trip B, that sort of stuff. And I can change those pages if I'd like. So I can do oil life remaining because remember, we do still have a gasoline engine on board. We still do need to do oil changes. Tire pressure, vehicle messages, my units I can change, tutorial mode, navigation, and then we're back to trip A and B. To the left, I do have my battery. That is my plug-in battery. That is how many miles I have just off of electricity. So right now it's showing me 19. By the time I film the B-roll for this, it'll probably be way lower. Then to the right, I actually have an interesting bar. It's this sort of circulating, I don't even know what it is. It's a bunch of leaves, but it's balanced in between acceleration and brake. So when I really get on it, it shoots all the way up to acceleration. And when I really get on the brakes, where all my camera equipment just flew off the seat. Man, these brakes work. It shoots down to the brakes. Whoops, hope I didn't break my camera. That would be unfortunate. The steering wheel is out of any other Chevy. This is, I think, probably one of the only parts bin items besides knobs and dials and little things like that. This looks like it's out of the 2012 Chevy Cruze that I drove. Really nothing special here. On the left, I have my cruise control, and on the right, I have my volume and phone options. To the left of the steering wheel, I do have my configure, select, and back switches for the gauge cluster, which is super nice. Took a little bit for me to find out where that was. Normally they're on the steering wheel. You can configure stuff, but it's actually its own separate thing to the right. Then on the door, we have our power mirrors and power windows. Lock and unlock is not over here. We'll get to that in a little bit. In the center, we do have a little cubby hole up top with a 12-volt outlet in it. Very, very nice. Then we have the infotainment screen. The infotainment screen, it's decent. I mean, it's the standard Chevy. They've put this infotainment system, this operating system, in pretty much everything that they've ever done ever. However, said ever a lot, it all looks like one giant molded piece, this center console. It's really interesting looking. It's very futuristic. And even the gear selector kind of goes into the middle of it. It's like it's home. It goes back inside once you're done. It's really weird. But we do have the climate controls. I do have heated seats, interestingly enough, which I am using and abusing at the current moment. Then down below the climate controls, we do have a couple interesting buttons. So I do have a leaf button. So this will tell me how much regenerative power I'm using. We can go to charging. This is really cool. So it says charge mode, and then it shows 120 volts and 240 volts. So this is really cool, the charging page. It says 120 volt and 240 volt, and then it tells you what time the car will be done charging when plugged into those two outlets. So if you only have a 120 volt outlet, this car will be fully back charged up by 2:30 p.m. I'm sure the B-roll will show you something different, but it's going to take a while. 240 volts looks like it'll take about an hour and a half. That is really, really nice because you could charge it up, and so then you'll know kind of when you can go back out and use the car again. If you just came home, from school and you're like, oh, I got to run some errands, plug the car in, and then you can know, okay, I can run errands in an hour and a half if you want to wait for the battery to be fully charged. Again, this is sort of a hybrid-ish electric car. You have that range extender. You don't have to totally wait that time if you don't want to. But if you do want to save gas, I mean, realistically, you can go a month or two without getting any gas at all, even maybe longer if you really just stay in town. My personal commute is about 14 miles each way. I could do it. I could do it in just electric mode if I don't go anywhere else. I could always plug this thing in. I could really just have an electric car. That's really nice. And then we hit the leaf one more time and we have energy info. Driving styles at 48%. Climate setting is at 100%. Down below the leaf button, we do have drive mode. So we have normal, sport, and a setting I've never seen is mountain. That's really interesting. It has a mountain mode. After doing some more research into it, mountain mode essentially keeps at least half of the battery fully charged, and it'll kick on the generators more often. The theory behind this is that driving up a very steep incline is going to use a lot more power than the car is really capable of in just EV mode, so it's going to give you an extra power boost so you can make it up those steep inclines, and it won't absolutely kill your battery or fry your battery or anything like that. Very, very cool, and I've never seen that in another car, let alone an electric car, which is really, really cool. But then down below the drive mode button, we do have the power button, which looks really cool. And over to the right, that's where our unlock and lock buttons are, power parking brake. And what's really interesting is that I have these little stickers for Dolby Digital, DTS digital audio, and DVD audio and video. I guess you could play DVDs in here? It's a very 2000s thing to do. But I guess it is what it is. Now we get to the actual shifter itself. Like I said, it goes back home. I like the look of it. It's different, but not different enough to kind of freak me out. It's still satisfying. The weird thing is that it's so in the middle, so different, that the park, reverse, neutral drive, and low dials or indicators are like way far off to the left. It doesn't really connect, which is sort of interesting. The seats are nice and comfortable. They don't feel like they are rental economy car seats. They're not brittle. They're not hurting my back. They're not stiff. They're not uncomfortable. They're not made of cardboard. And I really, really like that. You know, I think some electric cars really, really push every single inch of economy, lightweight, and you kind of suffer with comfort. But this is a very comfortable car. This is a very livable car, and this is something that I could get in every single morning and take to work or school or wherever, and I don't have to worry too much about it, and I don't feel like I'm sacrificing a whole lot in order to live that electric car life. But speaking of seats, let's do a backseat review. So we're in the back of the 2012 Chevy Volt, and honestly, headroom isn't great, knee room isn't great. I'm really smashed into this thing. It's an okay back seat, like comfort-wise. What's interesting is, you could probably tell, obviously, there's no center seat. It's just open into the trunk. I've never seen a car like this. I guess this would kind of be a 2+2, I guess. I've seen cars like that. Obviously, the Mazda RX-8 famously has a center console that goes all the way through the center car, and so there's one seat here, one seat there, one seat there, one seat there, so it's a 2+2. But never one that goes just straight into the hatch, which is really, really interesting. This is a hatchback vehicle. I've never really seen it like this. I do get a 12-volt outlet down below here, 2 cup holders, my own power windows, but that's really it. It's not super comfortable. If I had to take people back here, I could. I will, but man, I don't think I'd be happy back here for too long. I guess if I rode on the other side, the passenger could be nice and scoot the seat up, but I don't know. And overall, like I mentioned earlier on my little tangent before we did the backseat review, is that it is a nice car. I don't really feel like I'm sacrificing my own comfort to save the environment or to get better gas mileage. It just pretty much feels like a car that's electric. I really, really like that. It's a shame that they no longer make this car, and that's sort of my final talking point. So first of all, if you guys are interested, this is a plug-in electric vehicle with a gasoline range extender, but Chevy does make a completely electric car that is the Bolt, not the Volt, the Bolt, and I do have a review of that up on the channel, and I'll leave that at the end. But this was a liaison to electric cars in the late 2000s, early 2010s. If you guys are really interested, there's a really great documentary called Who Killed the Electric Car. It's one of my favorite movies. Very, very interesting. I definitely recommend taking a look at that. There was an old GM vehicle called the EV1, and it kind of got killed. It was way ahead of its time, and it was leased out to a bunch of celebrities, and then when the lease was over, they took them back and crushed them and would never put them on sale and blah, blah, blah. But the point that I bring that up is that this is not GM's first electric vehicle. This is a good liaison because it sort of takes away that range anxiety. I don't have any range anxiety. It says right now that I have 16 miles. It got all the way down to 6 miles, but then it jumped back up because the gasoline motor kicked in. I don't have any range anxiety. I don't have to sacrifice anything to drive an electric car. That's what I really like, because I think when Tesla came out, it was such a leap, so different, so strange, that for a lot of people that's hard to take. That's hard to accept such radical change. The EV1 in the late 90s, early 2000s, such a radical change. I don't think people were ready for it. But this kind of smooths you into it, and you're like, okay, I still have gas. I'll still stop at the gas station and get my big slurp, or big gulp, not big slurp. I was thinking of Slurpees. I could still get, my gas station stuff. And, maybe some people, I personally like going to the gas station. I like picking up a snack and kind of getting out of the house and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to give that up with this. I like sort of the ritual of that. And I like not having range anxiety. And so this is perfect. If you are looking to get into electric vehicles, but you're not totally sold, you're not ready to give up a lot of creature comforts, you're not ready to give up a certain way of life, if you're not full bore, if you're not totally into it, you know, if you're not a tinfoil hat wearing fool that thinks electric cars are God's gift to the earth, blah, 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 this is a great car for you. It's a nice, easy transitional car. And maybe after you like this, after you fall in love with this and you think, man, the Volt, man, I've owned it for a couple of years. This vehicle has 61,000 miles on it. Obviously, some previous owner loved this thing. After all of that, maybe you will go, maybe it is time for a full electric car. Maybe I'll look at one of those Tesla Model 3s. Maybe I'll look at a Chevy Volt. Maybe I am ready for the fully electric life. This is a gateway electric car, if that makes sense. It's essentially a gateway drug to electric cars. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Toyota of Naperville for letting me take out their used Chevy Volt. This really was eye-opening. You know, I really didn't think it was such a good transitional vehicle. I really thought that it was going to be like other electric cars where you kind of got to sacrifice your livelihood in order to drive one. But this, I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm comfortable. I'm warm. It's nice and quiet. It really, really feels great. So huge thank you to Toyota of Naperville. Their information is up on the screen. They have a bunch of cool cars in stock. You guys always see me driving the most weird and odd cars, and that's all thank you to Toyota of Naperville. Great customer service. If electric cars are not your thing, if Chevy Volts aren't your thing, if Toyotas aren't your thing, definitely still go check out their website. They have over 400 cars in stock, and you will find something that you are interested in. They have a lot of cool stuff at the dealership, so I cannot recommend them enough, and they are awesome. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really like to. Take care, guys. Aside from my soul, aside